For this video, I'm going to talk about the 6 light build, and this is a build that when Teamfight Tactics was on the PBE for Season 2, I was playing a lot. I really enjoyed this build. It doesn't feel as strong as some of the other builds right now, however, you can certainly be successful and win with it, largely because it's uncontested most of the time. So I find myself going 6 light when I'm falling into the units accidentally. If the other early game units, the Predators and the Woodlands, are not showing up, and you're just seeing an awful lot of Nasus, Jax, and Vayne, Vayne specifically, then feel free to just go 6 light, because it's certainly good enough to finish top 4, and sometimes you can steal some wins with it, again, because it's just uncontested. Now, this is the core 8 units that I usually try to target when I'm playing the 6 light build. Sometimes I'll do a variant where I'll go like 6 light and 3 summoners, but more often than not, this is what you are looking for. And specifically, you want to try to get Vayne to 3 stars, because she's your main carry, and then Yi and or Kindred are your secondary carries, but Kindred is typically contested, and Yi you don't find till much later in the game, and having your items sit around for that long doesn't feel great. So again, traditionally with light, you want to try to get Vayne to 3 stars, and then you want items like Runan's Hurricane, Bloodthirster, Giant Slayer to really make the most use of her. Now, she doesn't use mana, so things like Static Shiv are okay on her, but you're going to lose some of the value. Overall, you want the ones that increase attack speed and help her sustain. The synergies that you get with this build when you turn everything on, you do get Shadow because of Kindred and Yi. You do get Ranger because of Kindred and Vayne. You do get Mystic because Yi and Soraka are both Mystics. And then, of course, you get the 6 light. And I've got some sample itemizations up here with the Vayne, but then also if you don't 3-star Vayne and you're not hurting for health, you can try to race to a higher level and search for Yi. And then with Yi, it's just pretty standard attack speed, some sustain. Static Shiv is great on him because it gets him to triggering his ability that much sooner, and then he becomes a monster with something like Static Shiv as far as dealing damage. I do want to note a couple of other potential itemization options. So I've got an Iceborne Gauntlet on Jax. This is a great item if you just accidentally make one or find yourself having the stuff for it to put on Jax, because Jax's ability gives him 100% dodge while it is up, and that means free triggers for Iceborne Gauntlet, because the zone that it creates, it does so whenever the unit dodges. So Jax is a very resilient unit that you can get an awful lot of Iceborne value on, and I put it on Kindred, but it's fine to go on Kindred or Yi. If you do find yourself with a spatula, trying to create a Talisman of Light to then make Kindred and or Master Yi also function as part of your light crew can go a long way in helping out their damage and just overall helping your teams sustain. Now, potential pitfalls with this. If you don't 3-star your Vayne, you don't have a lot of damage, especially in the mid game with this build. You can really turn things on once you hit 6 light, and you also benefit very heavily from a 2-star Yorick, in my opinion. Things really start to go off for your team when you get 6 light and Master Yi, because you get the Mystic, and then you're getting the healing from the 6 light, so your sustain kind of spikes at that point. But prior to that, it just feels pretty weak right now. So again, I usually only go into 6 light when it's a very uncontested build and you're kind of falling into the units early so that you can chase that 3-star Vayne. Now, I will say, as of recording this, 6 light feels a little underpowered. However, in the future, it's supposed to get a buff. At least currently on the PBE, they are looking at giving light a bit of a buff. And when Lucian becomes available, some build that also features potentially Lucian with Senna could end up being very good, could end up being very popular. So keep an eye out for that. That's going to be coming in about a week or so from when I'm recording this. When this goes live, it'll probably be about 5 or 6 days until that patch is live, so keep an eye out for that. But overall, right now, this is the build that I target when I am targeting light, because it just gives you the best of what you can do with the light setup right now. This is not something that I would recommend forcing. As I said, your weaknesses, your weak point is really the mid game, in my opinion. Early game, I think you do well enough, but other teams are going to be hitting some pretty big power spikes when they're at levels 5 and 6. And if you don't hit that 6 light when you're level 6 to really kind of turn everything on, you're going to be struggling. And that's pretty common. A lot of times you find yourself hunting for that Yorick, and in the interim you've got, say, like Kindred in, which is fine, but you just don't really have a lot of sustain without the 6 light. And a lot of times, as I said, you just don't end up 3-starring the Vayne, which can really hurt, or you don't get the right items for Vayne, which can really hurt. So this is certainly the sort of build that needs some help. It needs some things to go your way, but don't be afraid to do it if they are going your way. If things are going your way, if everything's coming up aces for light, then it's certainly still powerful enough to win. It's powerful enough to steal some victories from folks. So anyway, this is the build. I've rambled enough, kind of beat the light horse to death at this point. So if you're still watching, thanks. I appreciate you, and hopefully I'll catch you watching future videos.